We have federal student loan borrowers who are soon going to be entered into repayment, a lot who have already entered into repayment. And with that being said, there's just a lot of information as a student loan borrower that you need to know. With the gutting of staffing at the Department of Education, not only that, with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the downsizing in the staff, student loan borrowers have to know how to protect themselves. That's exactly what it is. We have to make sure that we are becoming more informed. It's okay to know about the different repayment plans, the different programs, all of that nature. But in order to understand these different repayment plans, these different repayment programs, all of that, we have to understand what we have ourselves. We have to understand our loans and what things that we are required to pay back. And a lot of borrowers just don't know that. They don't know, you don't know how to find the information. You don't know how to look up your student loans to even know what you have if there was a spot or if there was a time where you needed to be able to protect yourself. And I want to show you that. And it's real easy to find the information, okay? One thing about the Student Aid website, if you have not, it's everything federal student loan. So if you have a federal student loan, this is the place where you need to be. Studentaid.gov. It tells you everything that you need if you are someone that is borrowing federal student dollars from the federal government. One of which is when you log in. So when you log in, that is where you get access to your student loan information. It's going to tell you everything you need to know about your student aid account, okay, and what you've borrowed. When you log in, so when you click at the top and you go to log in, that's where you're going to put your email in, whatever it is that you use to sign up for your student aid account. That's where you're going to plug that in. You'll get that verification just to make sure that you are who you say you are. And when you get this pop-up box here, a lot of borrowers just bypass this information. But for me, I like to use everything that I see in the student aid website. Because like I said, there's no one coming to save us, okay? And what that means is that we have to make sure that we are informing ourselves and we are using the information that the Department of Education provides for you to protect yourself because it all tells a story. First and foremost, it says, please read before continuing. And a lot of borrowers will just hit accept and keep going. We got to read. We got to read. You are accessing a U.S. federal government computer system intended to be solely accessed by individual users expressly authorized to access the system by the Department of Education. Usage may be monitored, recorded, and/or subject to audit for security purposes and in order to ensure that the system remains available to all expressly authorized users. The Department of Education monitors the system to identify unauthorized users. Anyone using the system expressly consents to such monitoring and recording. Unauthorized use of this information system is prohibited and subject to criminal and civil penalties, except as expressly authorized by the Department of Education. Unauthorized attempts to access, obtain, upload, modify, change, and/or delete information on the systems are strictly prohibited and are subject to criminal prosecution under 18 U.S.C. 1030 and other applicable statutes, which may result in fine and imprisonment for purposes of the system. Unauthorized access includes, but is not limited to, and then they go on to tell you. But what's important about this is what they say, okay? They tell you usage may be monitored, recorded, and/or subject to audit for security purposes and in order to ensure the system remains available to all expressly authorized users. But one thing about it is what you are consenting to. It tells you anyone using the system expressly consents to such monitoring and recording. So what that means for you as a student loan borrower, before you hit accept, to understand what it is that you are consenting to. Not only that, a lot of student loan borrowers who utilize the student aid system are having issues. They have issues with their applications, okay? You're trying to submit an application, you're having trouble with it. And for some borrowers, especially those who are putting in borrower defense applications, who are having issues, technical issues with the student aid website, guess what? They tell you that this information is being monitored. It's being monitored and it's being recorded. So what does that mean for you? If you're having issues with this system because you have already consented to be monitored and to also be recorded your usage when you log in, okay, then they should be able to tell when there's an issue with this website. When you logged in, they should be able to see what issues that you have. And that's information that you can be stating to the Department of Education when you're trying to fight with them or going back and forth with them about things that you're experiencing when you are utilizing this website. It's right here. It tells you that they are monitoring and they are recording. Okay, if you did that, then you should be able to see that I was having issues with trying to put in an application or whatever the case it is that you're having issues with on the website, okay? Once you hit accept, you just want to know what you are consenting to, okay? As soon as you log into your student aid account, once you verified yourself, you consent to all the things that they stated, that is where you're going to see your dashboard. As soon as you get to your dashboard, you will only see the payment progress here for PSLF if you have certified employment. If you are a borrower, you qualify to get your loans discharged, you work for a qualified employer, you'll immediately see this PSLF tracker, and it just tells you how close you are to forgiveness, and also what qualifying payments you've certified to get you closer to your 120 payments. Now, mind you, we're talking about the Department of Education here, okay? And another reason why it's important for us to understand what is happening and what our loans are, because we're dealing with an agency that can garnish your wages. They can do whatever it is they need to do without even taking you to court. So we're dealing with a system, we're dealing with an agency who can take money from you without even getting a court order. Then we want to understand and make sure that this person, this agency that is collecting this debt from you is collecting what is due, nothing more, and of course, nothing less. So that's why it's important that we understand what we have and what our accounts are talking about and what information is in this account, and also how to find the information. It's all right here for us, okay? So like I said, when you log in, you'll get to your dashboard. Then you see your little tabs up here where it says dashboard, my activity, my loans, my grants, and more. We want to know what all that information entails. Not only that, you'll see this little bell here. This is where all your notifications are. At the top, I'll give you all the other information to get you access to other parts of the Student Aid website. That'll be your FAST for grants and loan repayment, and all of your loan forgiveness options. But if you just scroll down, when you get to the dashboard, you just scroll down a little bit, that's where you get to another section, which is your aid. It allows you to view the details of your aid, any activity. So that means if you submitted any applications, and that can be your income driven repayment plan application, borrow defense applications. If you made complaints, you'll see that information. All of that is going to be there for you to review, and it's also going to show the date that you submitted the application, okay? Also, you'll be able to see who your loan servicer is here. Then they give you some quick links. Track your PSLF progress, loan simulator, enroll in IDR, loan consolidation. I want to do a separate video over loan consolidation, PSLF help tool, and lower my payments, and more things down here at the bottom, okay? Scroll down a little bit more. That is where you'll get to my aid. And this is important because this is where we're getting into the loans. So that way you'll know exactly what it is, and you'll be able to see a breakdown of your loans. If you click there, you'll see a breakdown of your loans. Also, if you click here where you see grants, that is where it'll show you the information about your Pell Grants. We want to know what our Pell Grants is, because I do see a lot of borrowers who are talking about, I'm not going to pay my student loans back, I'm just going to keep going to school. Well, with the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, things have changed up a little bit. Well, not even a little bit, quite a bit, especially for those who want to borrow going into graduate school. So you just want to you want to know what you have, because borrowers won't be able to get that access to those federal funds like previous. So you want to know what your grants are looking like, because even with Pell Grants, you only can get so much, okay? So you want to know what that information is here, where it says download my A data. That's your National Student Loan Data System information. It's going to show you everything with your student loans. You want to make sure that you download that. It's important to have this document. Once you hit the download button, it'll get you just a PDF copy. Well, it's like a text file copy. You'll see it. It's not the prettiest, but it's manageable. You can understand the information. You just break it down piece by piece. Download your A data. Scroll down again. That's where you see if you've consolidated your loans. It's important to know if you have consolidated. A lot of borrowers right now are in this space where they may need to consolidate a loan, but you want to consolidate only if you are 100% sure that a consolidation is necessary. Like, we don't want to consolidate just blindly, because there's so much right now with loan consolidation. I'm going to do a separate video about that. So we don't want to just be blindly consolidating, because you cannot unconsolidate. And not only that, if you have made any payments and you are pursuing public service loan forgiveness, then you run that risk of losing the time that you have paid those qualifying payments that you've made under PSLF, because you're opening up a whole new loan. So we want to make sure we're consolidating, extremely careful and very much informed prior to doing any type of consolidation, okay? But this is where you'll be able to see the type of loans that you have, if it's already been consolidated or not. When you click on my loans, this is where you'll also get that more detailed information about who your loans have been serviced by. And it's important to make sure that you're looking at the balances that were held by those other loan servicers, to make sure we don't have loans that are lingering out that may not have made it into a consolidation, if that is something that you needed to do. Or let's say that you're in default and you want to consolidate, if there's a loan that's hanging out that you're able to join into a consolidation to get yourself out of default. But like I said, I'm going to talk a separate video about that, because it's very important that we don't consolidate without proper knowledge, okay? All right, but this is where you're able to see who your servicer is. It's important to know who your servicer is, because this is the person, this is the business, the company that is assisting with your payments and any things that's dealing with repayment plans. 'Cause you can submit applications directly to your loan servicer. I know with submitting it on the student aid website, that's the, I guess, quote unquote, easier way, but information can go directly to the servicers as well. Um, Next thing, as far as knowing what the status is of your student loans. And that is where you can see when you click on the details, or when you click on that servicer that's holding the balance, this is where you'll see what your loan status is. Also, the repayment plan that you are currently enrolled in. A lot of borrowers are still in the SAVE plan. And I mean, hey, if that's what's working for you right now, then absolutely. If not everyone can afford to go into repayment, and then with the status of repayment plans, as far as what the current administration has done with the Department of Education, as far as not processing any types of forgiveness under any repayment plan currently. Some borrowers are just feeling safe with just staying where they are until being forced to do otherwise. But also, that's a decision that you made. You make sure you do that informed and know all the details of that. Okay. Like I said, when it comes to your Pell Grant, it's important to know where you stand just by clicking on grants to know how much you have left over in your Pell Grant, especially if you're someone who wants to continue going to school more and not necessarily being able to borrow any type of additional federal student dollars. You want to know how much you have in grant money if that's something that you may have to utilize. Okay. Another thing, pulling your credit reports is so important that we get our credit reports, and you can get your credit reports free every single week, y'all. Annualcreditreport.com. Request your free reports. And you're going to pull from all three agencies, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. You literally can get the report instantly on the website. So make sure that you're pulling those reports, because that is how you're able to compare the information with the student aid account. So that way you can make sure those balances are correct. Not only that, that you have the servicers that are matching up on the credit report. Not And then also, yeah, the balances. Make sure that and that the servicer are all lining up, and that the information is complete and accurate on the account, and that if you are someone whose loans have been assigned to a new servicer, that two servicers aren't reporting information to the credit reporting agencies who no longer carries a balance with them, or whatever the case. If your loans are supposed to have been discharged, that balance shows zero, whatever it is that the report should be reflecting, we're going to make sure that it's reflecting accurately. And like I said, you can pull them free every single week. Okay. So let's make sure that we're taking advantage of all of this information, because everything is free. Nothing is costing you a thing, just a little bit of time for you to get the information. Student aid website, everything is free. Credit reporting agencies, to pull those reports from annualcreditreport.com, all that information is free.